significance and the fundamental right of all citizens. Food safety as a shared responsibility of government, for example, national, states, and local governments. The food industry, including farmers, food transporters, food warehouses, and retailers and consumers, all these have a responsibility. The food supply chain in Uganda faces several challenges arising from, among others, agricultural practices, the mode of food production, the preparation of this food, the storage of this food, and transportation. Dear members of the Fourth Estate, you very well know that in the Central Region and elsewhere, it is a practice that we use unsafe material to prepare our food. For example, we use polythene bags to cover the matoke so that it gets ready very well. This is unsafe. So, poor communication and coordination mechanisms, as well as inter-agency cooperation in relation to food supply is still, food chain is still lacking. Although the government of Uganda has over the years been intensifying efforts to improve standards of food safety practices across each sector of food supply chain is yet to meet the recommended global best practices and standards. Incidences and outbreaks of foodborne illnesses with devastating socio-economic consequences is widespread across the entire country. For example, despite the non-availability of reliable and accurate data, over 200,000 people, including age 5 children, are reportedly dying annually from consuming contaminated food. Similarly, majority of Uganda's food products have continued to face low competitiveness or outright rejection at local and international markets. You realize at some point there was a time our foods were rejected from the international market. Today when you go to the local market, for example, when you want to buy bogoya, somebody asks, is this bogoya or it is this one? Then, oh no, this is the local one. So we must know that our food, both locally and internationally, is being rejected because of not being safe. The current food safety control system in Uganda is both sectoral and fragmented between various government ministries, departments and agencies, and between regulatory bodies operating at national and subnational level. There is no one-stop center for food safety issues in Uganda. Everybody is picking a tail, picking a leg, picking that, and at the end of the day, all the system is fragmented. Safe food is one of the most critical guarantors of good health. Unsafe food are the cause of many diseases and contribute to other poor health conditions such as impaired growth and development, micronutrient deficiencies, non-communicable or communicable diseases, and mental illnesses, among others. Globally, one in 10 people are affected by foodborne diseases. If we counted 10 people in this room, at least one has a foodborne disease. There is need, more than ever before, to transform food systems to deliver better health in sustainable manner in order to prevent most food diseases. Systems policy makers, practitioners, and investors are invited to reorient their activities to include and to increase the sustainable production and consumption of safe food in order to improve health outcomes. Incidences and outbreaks of foodborne illnesses, non-communicable diseases such as kidney and liver failure, brain and neurological disorders, and cancer are on the rise, with devastating socio-economic consequences and are widespread across the country. For example, according to figures from the Uganda Cancer Institute, the incidence of cancer, that is the number of new cases at any one time, stands at 400 per 10,000 people, while the prevalence of the disease is estimated to 8,000 to 1 million, and over 200,000 people, including under 5 children, reportedly dying annually from consuming contaminated foods. Members of the Fourth Estate, it is the earliest time you joined hands with the civil society to see to it that we fight this vice. These are very big numbers. When you count like 800,000 people, new cases are identified annually, then this is a very big number, and it calls to all of us to quickly intervene. With all this, I want to stop here and invite other members to take on. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen and members of the Fourth Estate, my name is Maria Macron. I work for Action Against Hunger as the Advocacy and Communications Coordinator. Action Against Hunger is a global movement working towards ending hunger for everyone for life. And in Uganda, we are in humanitarian and development response and working mainly in refugee host districts. We want to applaud Caritas for bringing the topic of food health is a result of the behavior pattern of the different stakeholders during the production, processing, handling, storage, distribution, and sale of the food. We are Ugandans. We all go to many of our open markets to buy food. We see how food is being harvested and how food is being dried. So right from the farmer to you, the consumer, we have to be worried about. Many of us go to the market and see how our granuts, that is a delicacy to many of us Ugandans, is being reported to have high rates of aflatoxins, which is not safe. And then, of course, when we talk about food safety also comes with poor knowledge among we, the public, and also the smaller holder farmers who produce the food for us. And this, therefore, calls upon all of us to take the issue of capacity building at the forefront so that our people are able to have information and be able to apply the information. We've also noticed the widespread of abuse in terms of the misuse of the agrochemicals. You've had many people talk and showing in TikTok and in social media how people are injecting the chicken to make it swell, and probably that accounts for the increased numbers of cancer of the liver, the kidney failure. So that is very dangerous for our country. The use of chemicals, we've had people talk about farmers spraying a chemical that makes the watermelon more sweeter, the pesticides. All that is a risk to all of us. And of course, if you don't have an adequate legal and policy framework to regulate and govern some of these processes, this also puts us at a risk. We are happy that we have a representative of the Uganda Bureau of Standards where issues of food safety are very critical. And of course, we also have the National Drug Authority. And we need to see the operationalization at the grassroots level beyond the capital, and seeing that the extension workers and everything are part of the standards discussion. We have also seen, of course, the issues of compliance is also arises from illiteracy among our smaller holder farmers and also the consumers themselves. So this can also be a challenge to us. I already alluded to the issue of poor monitoring and control. We've seen women carrying food left and right in our own capital here, Kampala. We've seen women packaging fruits in the pit latrines, in the verandas, and that should be our big worry. It's a public health concern. It's the reason probably people have chronic typhoid, because of the poor food, handling. The contamination of food crops due to poor post-harvest handling practices. We lose over 30% of our food in just the post-harvest handling, and some of it is inevitable. I am just coming from Kiriandongo, where I've seen farmers struggling to dry food. It's raining, there is no sun, and such food, by the time the sun comes, they have already gotten the aflatoxins, and some of them are drying the food on bare soil, and that is also a safety issue. So if we could go back to the food reserves, to the silos, and then also facilitate the smaller holder farmers to have the post-harvest, the modern post-harvest handling units, then we'll be able to guarantee food safety and also food security. There are these words that we need to make the music and the song in our tongues: food and nutrition security, food safety, and also talking and thinking about water, sanitation, and hygiene. If you can have safe food, but because of the poor water, sanitation, and hygiene, you will still end up being sick. You are well nourished this side, but because the water that you're using to cook is unclean and unsafe, and then you will lose, no matter how much your government is doing to guarantee the food safety measures. So it's an integral part that as we talk about food safety, we also need to be talking about access to land for production, access to water for production, especially if we want to create a balance of food safety and food security, as being a refugee host country. So this is also very important. And of course, we need to see coordination in the different ministries. Food is a matter of Ministry of Agriculture, food is a matter for Ministry of Health, food is a matter for trade, because it's where a majority of our people get their earnings from. We are 80% an agricultural country, and that is very, very important. So I would like to stop here and pass the mic to Charles to emphasize.
My name is Chris Charles Oyua. I am Managing Director for Mako Consulting. Mako Consulting is a development consultancy firm that provides consultancy services to NGOs, government and different ministries, agencies, and departments. Today we are here talking about food, and I'd like to thank very much Caritas for organizing this. We all agree that food is a very, very essential part of everyone's life. We all do need food for us to stay alive, for us to have the energy to do the things that we do, for us to be able to contribute to the development of this country and the development of this economy. Food is at the center of it. Means to access it. Means to access food includes the affordability of food as well, because we access food using different methods. Some of us access it from our gardens, and some of us access it from the market. Therefore, when we talk about accessibility of food, that means it must include affordability as well. And the food also needs to be adequate to meet, the individual dietary needs. Every one of us have different dietary needs based on our forms and circumstances. The dietary needs for children is different from the dietary needs for adults. The dietary needs for mothers that are expectant is different from the dietary needs of young girls who are growing. So when we talk about food, we emphasize that the food should meet the individual dietary needs. And what is the problem with our food today? My colleagues have already talked about the issues relating to food safety. And My colleague also talked about the issues around the legislation of this, the regulation of this rather. And the problem we have today is not that we have inadequate, laws that that govern food security or food safety for that matter. We have enough laws and enough policies that govern these. In fact, when you look at the different laws in this country, we have over 19 laws that speak about food and food safety. Because food is not just a product, food is a process as well. Food starts right from the production of it and how that goes on up to the time it arrives on the table that we are eating. So the whole of that process, there are so many laws that regulate that. But why are we still having that big problem? With over 19 laws, over 30 policies that speak about food in this country, why is there still a problem? And the problem is because a lot of the laws that speak about food safety, particularly in Uganda, are very, very old laws. The main law in Uganda that governs food safety is actually the Food and Drug Act of 1964. Since 1964, lots of things have changed in Uganda. Therefore, we really need to update our laws that govern this. And we also combine food with different other things. We combine food with drugs, we combine food with the, different components that are within food, which makes the issue around the food safety to be watered down. And the major problem is that most of these laws that govern food and food safety in Uganda are very, very old laws. So Uganda needs a food safety law on basis of which on basis of which coordination mechanisms should be designed, and on basis of which a particular secretariat that looks on issues of food should be established, because food today is in the docket of everybody. It is in Ministry of Agriculture, it is in Ministry of Health, it is in Ministry of Education, it is in Ministry of everywhere it is scattered. And that makes it a nobody's responsibility. And for us to really emphasize the importance of having food at the center of it all, we need to have a specific food safety law. And this food safety law should then give rise for us to establish coordination mechanisms so that different ministries, departments, and agencies that have the mandate in one way or the other to regulate issues around food should then be well coordinated. Why do we need food safety law? One, because commercialization of the food chains increases the risk of entire process of that food. And a recent report that was a pilot research actually that was done by Ministry of Health. It was released in April 2015 and it was updated January last year. This report shows that 1.3 million Ugandans are diagnosed with foodborne illnesses annually. And foodborne illnesses constitute 14% of all human ailments that are treated annually in Uganda. This is a very big problem. And this is a problem that needs to be addressed very, very urgently. Uganda lacks an up-to-date law, we have talked about that. The food safety issues need to be taken very, very seriously. If we see this huge number of people falling sick out of food-related illnesses and ailments. And the previous attempts that government has put in place to try and enforce food safety and strengthen the food safety legal frameworks have failed. And why have they failed? They have failed because of conflict over mandates between the different ministries, departments, and agencies. And that's why today we are saying that the food safety law should stand alone. and it should have its own mechanisms for implementing it, so that government resource allocation for it should also be very, very specific. It's a big problem that needs to be addressed very, very urgently. And the issue here is not that we need to have another law just for the sake of the law, but it is simple because the laws that we have currently are very obsolete and they are scattered all over the place. We need a mechanism that can pull them together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, the Fourth Estate. My name is Linda Ocheng. I work for the Pan-African Women's Organization, which is an arm of the African Union. We have 7 priority areas, but I'll talk about 3, which are pertinent to this right now. Peace and security, which is paramount, and when we talk about peace or security, it involves food. Agriculture and environment, that also needs food. Health and education. Without health, without education, people will not know the importance of having food, which is good food, clean food, which does not have any chemicals in it. Those are the 3 priorities areas that I can talk about where Pan-African Women's Organization is concerned. Now, through you, the Fourth Estate, we would like to pray that this information reaches the greater Uganda. These are our prayers. Strategies for achieving the best food safety and quality practices in the manufacturing, storage, distribution, sale of poultry, animal and fish feeds. Restoring hygiene and sanitary inspection systems to strengthen the existing inspection of both food and animals, including reaching out to street food vendors, establishments, traditional food markets, primary food production, centers, household hygiene and sanitation, and other related establishments in the DOGs. Engaging the Parliament to immediately review the Food Drug Act to provide the legal framework for implementation of the national policy on food safety. The establishment of Independent Food Safety Authority, which will have exclusive overall responsibilities for ensuring food consumed by the citizen is safe. Regulation of food should be separated. Our government to ensure that there is food safety testing and inspection in production, manufacturing and distribution sectors, and the government to equip our laboratories for the testing of these foods. From the source to the entering and to the distribution, we would like to pray that the government put in more effort in that. To develop and implement adequate public awareness and education programs for food safety that covers the entire food supply chain in our country, Uganda. Inculcate the subject of food safety into the curriculum of primary and secondary education systems all the way up to the universities. A total ban on toxic agrochemicals and fertilizers, and ensure that all antibiotics and growth promoters are harmless. Our conclusion: food is not only a biological need, but also an economic and political tool for all of us as Ugandans. An effective national food safety system will not only improve food security, but enhance the nation's economic economy through increased and sustainable import and export food trade. Improved food safety and sanitation standards will help to reduce the incidence of foodborne diseases. This will lower morbidity and mortality rates, especially among vulnerable groups in the population. Public health maintenance costs will be reduced, and they will be reduced because if we see fewer people going to get medication for diarrhea and all these waterborne diseases, surely there will be a difference in reduction. Public health maintenance costs will be reduced further, and sustainable expansions of the food and agro-based industries will be enhanced, leading to a significant reduction in the unemployment rate. We are praying to you, the Fourth Estate, to reach out to the people. If this information can be shared to the lowest and those people we think that they don't deserve to know, it will make a very big difference. Let people know that we should eat good food, from the small-scale farmer to that small-scale vendor on the streets of Kampala and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Bwe bulamu obulungi yensi ekulaakulana. Nabwekityo twagala okuteeka ensonga zino eri mmwe bannamawulire mutuyambe oba mutwegatteko mugituuse eri abantu abasookerwako be tugamba nti tebasobodde kubeera ano naffe n'eggwanga lyonna. So mu ekyo tukiraba nti ekitongole ky'ensi yonna kyogera ku mmere ennungi nga kiviira ddala ku kutandikwa bwerimibwa bwe bagikolamu n'ensaasaanya yaayo. Era ne tugamba nti abantu babeera nga tebalina ng'emmere tesobola batuukako, tetusobola kubeera nga tufuna kyetuluubirirwa okubeera nti bafuna obulamu obulungi. Okunoonyereza kulaga nti endwadde ezisoba mu 2 ziva mu ndya embi. Mu zino mulimu kolera, mulimu okuddukana, mulimu ne kansa. Ebintu bino byeyongedde nnyo mu biseera bino, ate ne tubeera tufunye okusoomoozebwa nti mu Uganda etteeka erifuga emmere n'enkola zetuyita policies, gavumenti okuziteekawo zibeere nga zikuuma omuntu owa bulijjo gwe tuyita consumer oba gwalya emmere, zibeera nga nnafu nnyo. Nabwekityo ne kibeera nti omuntu wa bulijjo okubeera nga bw'agenda mu katale, akatale tekamuyambye okubeera ng'afuna ekyo ekirungi ekigwanidde. Ate nga tukimanyi nti emmere ennungi, omuntu okubeera ng'afuna emmere ennungi ddembe lya buntu, it's a human right. So mu nsonga eyo tuvuddeyo tubeere nga tuteeka ensonga zino maaso, babeere nga gavumenti ebaako ezuukuka, kuba palamenti yaffe egenda negamba tugenda bawa ekirabo kya Christmas. Katusuubire nti bw'eneetunula mu mateeka gano esobola okubeera ng'ekola ki, ng'etuyamba mu bintu ng'ebyo. Bwe tudda ku mateeka agavunaanyizibwa ku ndya y'abantu ne standards oba omutindo gw'emmere mu katale, twebuuza ani avunaanyizibwa. Kubanga bw'ogenda mu ministries n'ebitongole bya gavumenti, ministry tulina eya trade, tulina eya agriculture, bw'obabuuza nti ani avunaanyizibwa ku mutindo gw'emmere, nti agenda mu agriculture, tinedda tuli mu trade, tinedda UNBS. Twegamba twetaaga gavumenti ebeere ng'eteekawo etteeka oba akakiiko akavunaanyizibwa nga tumanyi nti ono omuntu gwe batuwadde kyoba ali mu prime minister kyono gwe tugenda okutuukirira tubeere nga tumugamba ebikwatagana n'ensonga ezikwatagana ku bintu eby'emmere kubanga emmere bw'eba nkyamu naffe eggwanga liba mu katyabaga. So nga tuvudde ku ekyo ekyokubeera nti okubeera nga bakwasaganya amateeka ago, era research alaga nti abantu mu buli muntu omu mu bantu 10 mbaamu omuntu omu ng'alina obuzibu obuva ku ndyembi oba eby'endyembi. So statistics zino zitiisiza ddala. Bwe tugenda ku byemulago, almost abantu 4 mu bantu 1,000 babeera n'obubonero oba babeera nga bali ku katyabaga k'okukwatibwa kansa. Ate nekijja kikwasa ennyiike mu baana abato kubanga statistics ziraga nti abaana abasukka 200 be bali katyabaga k'okulwala ebintu ebyo wansi w'emyaka 5. Eggwanga lyaffe tulitwalawa bannaaye. So tusabira ddala gavumenti eveeyo ebeere nga ekwasaganya ekintu kino mu bujjuvu bwakyo, ebeere ng'efuga butya tugenda okubeera nga tuvuunuka ekizibu ky'emmere etali ku mutindo mu ggwanga lyaffe. So mu bwangu ngenda kubeera nga bayisaamu mu katyabaga akaviire ddala mu nkozesa embi ey'ebintu bino. Oba kijja kitya? Tukirabye nti naye bino wammanga gavumenti tusaba ebitunuulire. Ekisooka, obusobozi butono eri abantu bano, tebalina bwe bategeka. Gavumenti ebyagi byayo yabitunda. Twalina foods and beverage tetumanyi gye yadda. Ebintu bino byalibadde biyamba ku bantu bano okubeera nga bafuna bye bateeka emmere yaabwe, gavumenti oba nebasasula nga bwe byabeeranga edda mu zi cooperative. Ekirala, obwesigwa. Omanyi emmere tekoma kubeera bubeezi nti yakulya, naye kyamaguzi, sente. So abantu ne mu covid wano twabalaba baleeta ebijanjaalo waggulu bijanjaalo wansi ki mayinja. Ako katyabaga kennyini muvaamu ekintu kye bayita abazungu cross contamination, ne tubeera nga tufiirwa emmere ennungi nga tekyali ku mutindo kubanga ettaka tulimanyi, ettaka lye likuuma obuwuka buno. Aflatoxins eboogerako teziva mu bbanga naye ziva mu ttaka eryo ne zibeera nga zikosa. Ekirala gavumenti kye tugisaba era nga kyebimu ku bintu ebireeta obutyabaga mu bantu bano bye bintu ebikozesebwa mu kulima oba mu lufuutufuutu bye tuyita agro inputs. Ripooti ya Attorney General ey'omwaka 2021 eyafulumye kweri ku mutimbagano mu gikebere, ye mwennyini ayogera lunywe ti gavumenti yagaba ebigimusa n'eddagala oba erifuuyira n'ebiwa abalimi naye nga tebiri certified oba nga tebikakasiddwa UNBS. Kyekyavudde mu ekyo yo gyennyini neconcludinga negamba nti ettaka lyafunye kye bayita hardening mu luzungu. Bannasayansi bajja kwongera okinnyonnyola, naye kyekitegeeza nti omuntu wa bulijjo omulimi ettaka eryo terigenda kuddamu kukola ki? Kumukolera kuleeta mmere. Ate tukimanyi nti ettaka bwe lifa ekinyonyo lyetaaga emyaka 20 okudda engulu. So bwe tuba nga tulina ripooti ya Attorney General eyogera ekintu bwe kityo, bannaye gavumenti ezuukuke. Naye era tulina obuzibu mu kintu ekyo ekyokukozesa ebigimusa n'eddagala, kubanga gavumenti bwakya kumakya ne liberalizing economy, buli muntu waddembe okuleeta ki kyayagala. It is a free market. Kati netakoma okwo extension services ez'obulimi nezi privatizing. Bw'otunuulira NADS Act ewe betu abasajja banna business okola ki okujja ne bakola extension services naye guno omulimu tetuganye bali badde bajja naye babeereko ne regulation fa tukimanyi abantu bagamba abayivu bagamba nti muna business kyatasobola kukola kukyusa musajja n'amufuula mukazi naye ebisigadde byonna akola ki abisobola so gavumenti yefudde ki kyesirikidde so tumaliriza nga tusaba ti ebintu bino ebyemmere tebikoma ku mulimi yekka naye na buli kise kinnoomu mu gavumenti etteeka erifuga emmere kadde nnyo lya mwaka 1964 tusaba palamenti ebeere ng'erifaako ekyewuunyisa mu tteeka eryo muli gali abiri 2-in-1 mulimu ery'eddagala n'emmere naye ery'eddagala balifaako lyo likola naye ery'emmere tebikola ki terikyuka liri awo so tusaba nti palamenti yaffe ebeere ng'etwegattako namwe bannamawulire na buli kinnansi na buli kinnoomu tubeere nga tufaayo ku ndya ennungi twewala ebintu ebyatuleetera endwadde nga zi covid kuba nakati batugamba yali mmere yali ki tujja mala tumanye ekituufu naye bwe tuzannyira mu byokulya kyekyo ekivaamu so banyawo ne bassebo mbeebaza amanya Sekalema Huzaima. I work for an organization called Siatini. Siatini is Southern and Eastern African Trade and Information Institute. We are pro-trade organization working to promote fair trade in Africa.
Giregon, I lecture in the Department of Agricultural Production, School of Agricultural Sciences, College of Environmental and Agricultural Sciences, Makerere University, and I'm also a member of Uganda National Bureau of Standards, co-opted to a recently established unit to tackle issues of agriculture, food and health. And I think this is a timely meeting. Last Monday, 5th December, was the World Soils Day. For those of you who bothered to read the news, you must have seen the letter of the day on Daily Monitor at that time was published by me. The theme was that soils where food begins. We are gathered here to tackle the aspect of food safety and health. The safety of food begins from the soil. And the contamination the food inherits from the soil is like the diseases you are born with. You cannot treat. And therefore, the starting point to tackle food safety is the soil. Once the soil is not healthy, you cannot expect to be healthy, because we are only part of the complex life processes in the soil. Whether they are bacteria, whether they are fungi, whether they are actinomycetes, whether they are viruses, whether they are earthworms, termites, collembolands, malophax, and all these are our relatives, and in a way we are related. What happens to any of them as a result of our actions will eventually boomerang and come back to us. So how does the soil get contaminated to poison our water, to poison our food, to poison the air we breathe? Number one is the use of toxic fertilizers. We want to refer to toxic fertilizers as those products that are used to improve yields, but which have been what? Either deliberately or unintentionally been contaminated. One way is you have, in a fertilizer, you have nutrients. Nutrients are the elements that the plants need for them to grow normally and give us the yield. But those nutrients cannot come on their own. There is a carrier material that is used to convey them until you get them. The problems start there. What is the carrier material that has been used to carry these nutrients? some evil-minded people or manufacturers have used nuclear and therefore radioactive waste as a carrier material for the nutrients. So you get a fertilizer, but that fertilizer has nuclear substances that can actually induce mutations. All these cancers and tumors we are talking about can be inherited that way. Secondly, on toxic fertilizers is use of mining waste. Slag. Slag is a semi-solid or semi-liquid material recovered during the smelting of metals. That material can be loaded with heavy metals. We're talking about mercury, arsenic, lead, strontium, and all this. What is the carrier material in that fertilizer that we are advising the farmer to use? Still on fertilizer toxicity, there can also be use of, some countries are using biosolids. Biosolids is solid waste recovered from treatment of human waste. If that waste is not disinfected, it will come with infectious materials, germs, E. coli, salmonella, and all these that give us problems that plants can take or that the soil can convey, and then when we are exposed through it, we get what? We get affected. There are several other aspects on toxic fertilizers, but also I want to take you to toxic organic fertilizers, because there is a talk that we must go organic. What is it in that organic? If the waste is coming from animals or crops that have been contaminated, either intentionally with the science, for example, of genetic engineering, or the kind of food that that animal has fed on, those toxins will end up in the soil, where the plants will take them up, and then they get into the food chain. What are we recovering from the review of literature and also from testing? Organic wastes are a major source of exposure to antibiotics residues. These animals that have been tampered with through genetic engineering, and therefore you must start injecting on day one up to the time the animal comes to your table as food. Most of those antibiotics actually are excreted in the manure, in the urine. When we collect this and use them unprocessed, then they get into the food chain. We are detecting a lot of antibiotics, besides antibiotic residues, pathogenic organisms, and not just pathogenic organisms, but organisms that have been exposed to a wide range of toxicants, including these antibiotics, and therefore they have developed immunity resistance. Some of these organisms have developed resistance to as many as 7 antibiotics. What this means is that when you get exposed to such cushioned organisms and you fall sick, wherever you go, you will not get a response because you have been infected by superbugs. So we need to be clear on the quality of the wastes that we are using. Still on soil contamination, apart from toxic fertilizers, toxic organic fertilizers, we also have pesticides. The entry of pesticides into farming has had a knock-on effect on our health, because 99% of the pesticide applied on the crop, on that animal to control ticks and these other problems, ends up in the soil, in the water, and the air, and therefore we get exposed, because most of these, especially the synthetics, are persistent. Persistence allows them to survive until they reach the food chain to actually harm our health. Use of human waste, disposal of human waste, is the other way through which the soil gets contaminated. You be around Kampala here when it's raining, including some of the big hotels. They are not connected to the National Sewerage Corporation. They have vents. So when it rains, as long as the runoff starts, they open those vents and the feces just flies out and the water carries it wherever. That is not safe. Most of the industries, they do not treat their waste. This is let into the environment and it gets into the waterways. You see the effluent has come from here, just a short distance away, people are fetching water to drink, they are washing sugarcane, they are washing vehicles. So there is a lot of mess that is happening in the soil. And coming from the experience of a researcher, part of my work has involved interrogating the standards that have been set to regulate some of these activities. The government must actually come on board, and you media must help popularize this agenda, because there is a lot of ignorance. Your vehicle comes looking clean. Do you know the water with which it was used to wash? What did it contain? And the children are playing with their nice looking clean car. What does it contain? The labs are ill-equipped. I can speak with authority that we do not yet have the capacity to detect the levels of most pesticide residues, especially glyphosate, DDT, which is the leading contributor to cancers, infertility, or multiple organ damage. We do not have the capacity to detect that toxin, how much of it is actually in our food. And the equipment is expensive. I think in 2014-15, I tried to partner with some people in the US. They told me, if you think it is important, talk to your government. Know which industry will allow you to know what is in what they are giving you, when their intention is to kill you. So the government and the public must support laboratory testing and research if we are to address the aspects of food toxicity. And the farmers must own the farming. The entire value chain of farming must be owned by the producer. Most of these insults come as a result of stratification, that there is somebody who controls the inputs, there is somebody who tills the land, there is somebody who does the trading. Actually, the traders, when they go to the farm, that is where they put mancozeb, that is where they put chlorpyrifos, which has been banned in these other countries, on the food. They spray the tomatoes before they pack them to come to sell. The same with the nakati. So and the agenda currently where we are moving, the Bill Gates, the Monsantos want to remove the farmer from the land, and then they take charge using drones and all this, because when you control food, you have an ultimate control over the population. And you can, if you combine that with the seed that they are also about to take control over, you have weaponized seed, we have toxic inputs. They are the ones who have patented pharmaceuticals, so they make you sick. You go to their institutions, you buy their medicines, you use their equipment, X-ray and all this. Isn't it a smart strategy for maximization of profits, while at the same time achieving the goal of depopulation? I thank you so much.
Basebo ne bannyabo, nkomyewo nate erinnya nze Linda Ocheng nga nkola mu kibiina kye bayita Pan-African Women's Organization. Ekibiina ekyo kiri wansi wa African Union. Mu bintu byetukolagana nabyo ebitukwatako byetutwala mu maaso mulimu ebintu nga ebyokulya, abalimi, agriculture, abaana baffe n'ebyobulamu. Njagala kudda mu akatonotono mu bigambo Professor Olupot byava okwogera. Byonna sijja kubimalayo naye ebimu. Professor Olupot akola mu Makerere University, ate ku ssaawa eno tuweereddwa omukisa nti agenda kuweereza mu Uganda Bureau of Standards. Professor Olupot agezezzaako era anyiikidde okwogera ebigambo bye ab'amawulire, ogezaako okutuusa ebigambo bino wansi eyo ye gy'atasobola kutuuka, kubanga mmwe mutambuza ebigambo, musobola okukola omulimu guno n'okugutuusa ku gavumenti yaffe nga bwe kisaanidde. Tutegeezezza nti ettaka lyaffe bwe tutalirabirira bulungi, ettaka lye lituleetera obulwadde. Yeeyongedde okwogera nti mulimu obuwuka obuzze mu ttaka lino okuva mu byobulunzi, mu byobulimi, ne eddagala lye bafuuyira oba lye tufuuyira ebintu byaffe ebyokulya n'ebyobulimi. Yeeyongedde okutegeeza nti mulimu eddagala lye bafuuyira ebisolo n'ebinyonyi nga enkoko bisobole okukula amangu, naye ebintu ebyo bijja ne bituleetera endwadde mu nga kookolo. Yeeyongedde okutegeeza nti tulina obuvunaanyizibwa okubuulirira abalimi basobole okwegendereza nnyo ebintu bye bafuuyira, ekintu ekitono ennyo ng'ennyaanya oba watermelon, okulaba nti ziwooma zibeere nga zirimu sukaali oyo akawoomereza ako, n'ennyaanya zibe nga zituuka bulungi mu katale. Yeeyongedde okutugamba nti nno ebyo bye tukola bye bituleetera endwadde. Eddagala lye tuzze nga tukozesa erya DDT ffenna abasinga tulimanyi, lireese kansa kookolo omungi ennyo mu bantu. Mu 2014-2015 yagezaako okwogera ne kampani emu mu United States of America ng'agezaako okubagamba nti bye muleeta si birungi, bijja kutta abantu baffe. Baamuddamu ne bamugamba nti oyogedde be bitakwatako ennyo, ddayo oyogere ne gavumenti yo, kubanga gavumenti yo yejja okusobola okuziyiza oba okulagirira bannansi kye balina okugoberera nekye batalina kugoberera. Mu ttaka lyakozeeko research, azudde nga mulimu bye tuyita antibiotics. Ffenna wano twali tukozesezaako ku antibiotics. Antibiotics ezo bwe tuzifuluma ne ziyingira mu ttaka, oba amazzi ge tufuuyisa ne gayingira mu ttaka, enkuba bw'etonnya amazzi ago ne gakulukuta gye gakulukutidde. Yakolako research okukebera amazzi ago n'azuula nga mu ttaka weewaawo obubi n'omusulo bimazeemu ebbanga, naye antibiotics ezo tezifa, ate zizimba ne zikola ne zireeta ekirwadde ekirala. Kati bwe tugenda okulima kazibenva kebeera emmere, kyangu nnyo emmere eyo ebiseera ebisinga emmere ze baali bakebedde zaazuulibwa nti zirimu antibiotics ezo, teziggwaayo, tezifa. Kati ayongedde n'alambulula n'agamba nti kyannaku nnyo enkuba bw'etonnya mu Kampala nga wano oba n'emiriraano, waliwo companies ezimu ezisumulula emidumu ne zifulumya obubi bwe baba bakozeseza oba mu makolero oba mu bantu mu bitongole ebiddaabiriza amazzi. Obubi obwo ne bwegatta n'amazzi ge tukomyawo ne tunaaba oba ne tunywa. Professor Oluport yeeraliikirira nti bwe tuteegendereze ensi yaffe ejja kuggwaawo, lwa nsonga nti companies ez'amaanyi ezirina ensimbi zigenze zijja ku bantu baffe obuvunaanyizibwa obw'okwerimira era obw'okukuza ebirime byaffe. Companies ezo bwe zinajja zijja kuba nga zifuuyira oba ziteeka ebyobulime mu ttaka ebintu bisobole okugimuka amangu, n'okufuuyira mu bbanga nga bikozesa ago amadagala agayinza okuleeta obuzibu mu ggwanga lyaffe nga Uganda. Kabe kasinge si mu Uganda yokka, kubanga tulina n'emiriraano nabo bayinza okufuna ku kizibu ffe kye tunaaba tufunye oba ffe okufuna ku bizibu bye banaabafunye ewaabwe. Profesa asaba twegendereze nnyo ng'ensi yaffe Uganda ng'ayita akoowoola mmwe ab'amawulire singa musobola okusaasaanya amawulire gano gatuuke mu bakulembeze baffe okuviira ddala kuba LC n'okutuukira ddala ku mukulembeze waffe w'eggwanga kireme tugaane tuziyize okukozesa ebintu ebyo ebijja okumalawo ensi yaffe kubanga ebintu ebyo bikosa obutonde bwaffe ng'abantu n'ebirime byaffe okuviira ddala kufa abaliwo ne bazzukulu baffe mu biseera ebigenda okujja. Mu bigambo bye nasomye mu Lungereza kuno essebo bifuuyira nga biva mu bbanga nga bakozesa systems eza waggulu kati zijja kuba bwe bafuuyiranga wano eka oba 5 oba eka 10 kyangu nnyo n'oyo atabiriimu empewo okutwala ebyo bya nuclear ebyo ebiri toxics ebyo okugenda nga byeyongera n'awalala mu mpewo tekijja kukosa wano okka awo okka bwe banaabafuuyidde ate n'ekirala anti pesticide drift kati mu Luganda pesticide drift mu Luzungu naye mu Luganda bisaasaana n'oyo saalumanya ne naalumanya n'abigenderamu. Ettaka bwe lyonooneka litwala emyaka 20 okuddamu okukula oba okukuza ekintu kyonna. Yesebo kati mu kusaba kwaffe nga ffe bwe tuzze wano tusabye nti gavumenti yaffe eteekewo amateeka aganaasobola okugobererwa mu buli kimu kye tukola mu kugabanya mu kutunda mu kutereka mu kulabirira ebirime ebisolo n'ebinyonyi ne wamu n'ebyennyanja. Tusaba gavumenti yaffe eddemu okutunuulira eyo act eya food and drug gye baateekawo edda tugireviewing tuddemu tugikebere. Policies ezo omwami Charles Chris yazoogeddeko nkadde nnyo tuddemu tuzitunuulire tuzireete kubanga emyaka gyadda ekintu eky'emyaka okuva mu 6 kakati emyaka 5 oba 6 giyiseewo ebintu bikyuse. Tugezeeko nnyo okuyigiriza abantu abo abatayogera Luzungu oba abatamanyi biki bigenda mu maaso nga tuyita mu bakulembeze baffe ab'ennono mu gavumenti zaffe eza wakati n'eza buli wamu. Tugezeeko okuyita mu nzikiriza zaffe mu makanisa mu masinzizo gonna abakatuliki abasiraamu abaprotestanti n'abo abasawo ab'ekinnansi ffenna tutegezeeko okutegeeza abantu nti bw'onoolima n'osimba by'osimbye ebirime ng'obisimbiza fertilizer oyo oba ebigimusa ebyo ebirimu kye bayise mu Luzungu toxics ojja kubanga weesimidde bunnya gwe n'abo abanakuddirira emyaka 20 n'omusobyo egijja mu maaso. Mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala bassebo ne bannyabo okumpuliza. Neetaagisa okugirabirira okuviira ddala mu nnimiro. Bwe tukijjayo mu nnimiro nga tumaze okukungula tugikutte tutya mulimu abakwata emmere ne bagamba nti nno bagikungudde bulungi naye ne baagala ebeerewo nga teyonoonese okumala ebbanga ne bagifuuyira balina eddagala gye bagifuuyira esobole okuva gyevudde etuuke mu katale oba sinakindi etuuke ku oyo omuguzi nga teyonoonese. Ekyo kirimu obulabe eddagala eryo lye tufuuyira emmere eyo kya bulabe ate kitta. Ne wabeerawo enkwata y'emmere mu katale waawo wennyini w'otundidde mulimu abateeka emmere wansi ku ttaka ng'amazzi gakulukuse gayiseewo gye gavudde toyinza na kumanya gye gayise kubanga mukoka bwajja buli kimu akitwala tayinza kujjawo nti ajjeewo buveera bwokka n'ebyo ebiri mu ttaka nabyo abitwala. Kati gwe bw'ojja n'oteekawo omulengo gwe ogwa muwogo oba ogwa lumonde wansi awo wayinza okuvaawo obulwadde obuyinza okukosa newankubadde nga byazze bulungi kugamba nga babikutte bulungi okuva mu nnimiro ne kuloole nga babikutte bulungi naye waotundidde nawo walina okuba nga wayonjo kubanga bwe tutagendereze awo tuyinza okugjawo obulwadde nga okuddukana tuyinza okugjawo obulwadde obw'okusesema ne mujjamu n'endwadde endala ennyingi embi ezisingako awo. Ngenda kusaba
Dokita yayogeddeko ku nsonga ya labu zaffe tezirimu byuma tuliwo obubeezi kwegamba Katonda yakuuma njagala okanyweze mu Uganda.
Yes sebo labs zaffe era nakisabye nti labs zaffe tusaba gavumenti yaffe eteekemu amaanyi mu kuteeka ebyuma ebisosola ebikebera ebisobola okulaga ebintu bye tulya oba ettaka nga balitutte okulikebera biki ebirimu. Gavumenti ebyuma bye tulina mu gavumenti kati biweddeko omutindo ebbanga ddene nnyo nga twerabidde tugoberera era side ya public health eba medication pharmaceutical abo bali ku mutindo ebyokulaba nti nno amadagala gaffe gali ku mutindo ebyuma ebigakebera bya mutindo bya kakati naye bino ebikebera ebintu ebirala nga mu labs ezikebera endwadde mu ttaka endwadde mu mazzi singa olaba jaya amazzi gosenye mu taapu ewuwo kino nkigamba just jaya amazzi sena amazzi mu jaaga ng'etukula gateeke mu jaaga eyo gatuuze okumala essaawa nga gavudde mu taapu ojja kwesanga oluvannyuma lw'eddakiika ntono nti wansi mu mazzi ago nga jaaga iyo ebadde etukula oba ekikopo oba giraasi wansi waliyo ebiddugala naye ng'amazzi gayise mu taapu gayise ga national water. Tusaba gavumenti yaffe eyongere amaanyi mu bukugu obw'ebyuma ebyo ebikebera amazzi ebikebera ettaka ebikebera ebirime byaffe era n'abo bascientists abagenda okukebera ebirime byaffe mu nnimiro eyo nabo babongere kabe kasinge babongere n'emisaala kubanga nabo bakola emirimu mirungi naye tebasobodde kusobola kukola mulimu gwabwe kubanga ebyuma bye balina si bya mutindo. Kiringa ng'okugamba omuntu nti genda olime ate n'omuwa akambe omuntu omugamba genda olime olina kumuwa nkumbi. Singa gavumenti yaffe ekyusaamu kinaatukola bulungi.
Ntala kyenga tunaakumaliriza waliwo katono nnyo kenda okukatiriza bannaffe bano abafumba emmere mu butale kibuga n'obubuga obutonotono tubayitako eyo bangi basala ekkubo n'obusowaani buli ddakiika buli ssaawa. Embeera eno gye bafumbira emmere n'emmere yetambuzibwa twalibwa ne mu maofiisi mu bizimbe ebiwanvu bitula mu Kampala naye ng'abantu bangi bagitambuza. Mu mbeera eya safety ey'emmere eri ety eyo okuva mu katale gyavudde n'okugituusa eri maofiisi ogisaza amakubo era baabo balina kukwatibwa batya era emmere erina kukwatibwa etya.
Bannange ekyo kintu kikulu nnyo simanyira nti nkitandikako ssaawa eno nenkimala naye nga sikyandibadde kituufu kubanga omuntu bw'abanga emmere edda teyasukkanga kkubo newankubadde omuntu okuyigula akasooli n'ayimirira n'amulya ku kkubo naye kaakati ono abeza emmere yagitadde ku sowaani agisusize ku batambudde obulwadde bwazze nabwo nga bujja ku mmere eyo toyinza nakububala simanyi ki kye tuyinza kukola kubanga awo nabo we bafuniramu naye nga tekyandibadde kituufu kati kijja kubeera eri gavumenti yaffe okufuna engeri gye bayinza okutetenkanyamu basobole okwebeezaawo kubanga nabo banoonya ssente za kwebeezaawo naye kakati kiri eri ggwe okugamba nti sijja kulya mmere eyo ebeere nga choice yo sijja kulya mmere esusse kkubo sijja kulya mmere nkoko gye nguze ku kkubo kubanga tomanya gye bagifumbidde tomanyi makubo matendera gyeyiseemu kijja kuba eri ggwe nze ab'enju yange tutera okugamba nti twabituuma tourism twakigandawaza nti turista n'otambula n'ogenda awantu as a tourist n'ogula ebyo ebintu ebiriwo batyo n'okomawo eka n'oddukana kiri eri ggwe tewali ngeri yonna yonna gye tuyinza kutandika kukyogerako kakati kubanga kigazi nnyo kuba nabo beenoonya beeyiya naye nga tekyandibadde kituufu dressed well because they come, some of them they deliver the food in their normal clothing. We know in the food industry that when you are serving food, you have to be dressed properly. You have to cover your head. You have to put on an apron to cover yourself. And in times like these, surely you need gloves. So it is the health inspectors who can check the hygiene. I don't know if we have enough health inspectors in our institutions to check where these people cook from and how they present that food. Moving from one area to another, crossing roads, going into offices and delivering this food. That on its own, by the time the food reaches you, irrespective of if it was covered with another plate, surely there could have been some contamination along the way. It is a risk. It is for you as the consumer to decide whether you want to eat that food or not. It is a choice because you need to remember how far the food has come from. Then there is the issue of how the food is cooked, especially our native matoke, our native sweet potatoes and cassava. In the event that we do not get banana leaves as we used to, and nowadays we use the polythene bags and the jute bags, which we in Luganda we call the buvera or the bukutias, to cover the food. We have a problem. How this vice can be challenged, how we can tell people that it is a health hazard even to use that kavera. It is a big thing that the government needs to take on. Perhaps sensitize the health workers, use you, the media, to inform people. Use the social media to inform people because these days, social media is a tool that we should not forget. Something spoken now, if it is of essence, let us share it so that people know that when you buy the food, you stand a risk of eating contaminated food. When you buy the food in the market, look at where you're buying it from. You just stop your car, point, I want this, and this. But underneath there, a lot of sewage has passed. So, ladies and gentlemen, you and I, it is our duty to inform those people around us. Go to the local leaders. Go to the cultural leaders. Talk to the religious leaders in whatever sect, as well as the herbal leaders. Do you know how these herbalists share the information and they make you believe on something that probably does not exist? Yeah? We can use them to inform their people. The one you will not reach he or she might reach. Ladies and gentlemen, let us make it our duty. Thank you very much.
Right.
From the literature, the feed, there are those they call, is it feed supplements, the premix. Premix is very loaded with heavy metals. In a kilogram, for example, the literature indicates that there is almost 10,000 milligrams of cadmium. Cadmium is a notorious metal in damaging the brain, the kidney, the liver, all those problems you see in the hospital. The body can only metabolize 15%, and the remaining balance is excreted. So when you use that manure, definitely you get sick. You are asking which pesticides to use. First of all, we are operating like we are in a bottle where we have already been put, and we are trying to find solutions from within that, and yet the problem is systemic. The pollution of the agricultural system started with an ideology of a specific group. These are families behind slave trade. These are families behind weapons of mass destruction. These are families behind these toxic chemical mining industries. These are families behind, now they are diverting that investment into altering the agricultural system. Otherwise, in the natural setting, the ecosystems have had their own natural checks and balances for managing pests and diseases. But just like now the other birds in confinement, where we have been taken, the soil has been adversely affected, the natural checks and balances have collapsed, and now it is external intervention. And we have been conditioned to think that without these chemicals we cannot. There is not going to be a shortcut, but we have to undo the ills that have gone on unchecked, pushed by the corporations that are advancing a particular ideology. Ethiopia, for example, has advanced in biopesticides. Wood ash, neem leaves, urine, when they are fermented, can work on a number of pests. But these companies come from the university. Again, the government was under these structural adjustment programs. Governments were pushed out of funding postgraduate studies. Now that is now where we become relevant to society when we do research, interrogate and ask questions. These groups said no, don't fund. The vacuum created by government has been filled by them. And so what gets researched is what has been funded. And so consequently, we are the most dangerous people to the society, we the educated, because who has funded our research? Who has funded our studies? We have to address the issues, and the taxpayer is not going to get out of the hook. We have to put the cost of research and training. UNPS sets the standards. It doesn't have the enforcement mandate. And that is maybe the other thing we should start here. Why do you only let me to set standards? If you mandate me to set standards, I need an arm that is going to make sure that those standards are implemented and followed to the dot. That is also a gap that I see. Otherwise, having a UNBS logo alone may not be a guarantee. Who has where was that logo got from? Who checked to ascertain that what that logo promises is what is there? It goes back to the issue of testing. The government and the taxpayer must foot the cost of equipping our labs and procuring the necessary equipment to do the tests that we need for our own welfare. Lastly, I would like to thank Caritas Uganda and actually call on other religious groups. These issues are not for the Catholics. And therefore, the burden should not only be left today, because behind this Caritas is actually the Catholic Church. I wouldn't be speaking to you if it was not because of the help I got from the Catholic mission, the Catholic Church in the US, especially the mission that deals with agricultural issues. They have their own scientists funded and planted inside to see what are these people doing. When they release dangerous product, they alarm. So other religious groups, please take interest in in tackling these issues, so that together we can manage the monster. I want to inform you that Africa, only 6% has been vaccinated. The scientists are puzzled out there, why have these people refused to die of COVID? With only 6% vaccinated, the secret is in the food. The food that my mother, your mother, those people in the village who are not even working can afford to put on table. You need to be having a well-paying job outside there to be able to afford. And now they are following to destroy those food systems and take over with the ones that are killing. 50% of the deaths in Africa were accounted for by 4 nations: South Africa, Algeria, Egypt, and Morocco. And these are the countries that have fully embraced GMOs. So there is a relationship between the food and health.
Thank you, so that we can change the way we do things. Otherwise, we are so grateful that you had time to come and give the story. Please remember to register.
We need to be
Ecumenical.
Okay, can you pray?
Gentlemen,
the accountant is in that corner.
yes.
You can